If you have these players, you should probably be panicking. But first, let's talk about some players that didn't have the greatest Week 10 performances, but I don't think you need to panic on. Starting with quarterback Jayden Daniels. Okay, yeah, his first really bad game. But look, Dyami Brown dropped an easy touchdown in the end zone. Terry McLaurin got tackled at the 1. This could have been a much bigger game for Jayden Daniels. Give him a pass here, roll with him again next week. And same with Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Garrett Wilson. Everybody has down games. Everybody gets a pass sometimes. Give these guys a pass. And you got to give Cade Otton a pass. Sure, he finally did not go off this week, but I mean, come on. You picked this guy up off of the waiver wire, and he's mostly been great. Take what you got and just move on. And Ramondre Stevenson didn't score this week, but he still had 20 carries. He's mostly been very good this year. It happens. Move on. He should get better. And this was only Devonta Smith's second game all year where he's been healthy that he scored under 15 PPR points. I know it was frustrating in a good matchup, but again, you got to give him a pass here. He's been mostly good. And if you were riding Baker Mayfield earlier in the season and you've kind of been let down the last couple weeks, I get it. But again, you got to give him a pass. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. He should at least get Evans back after the bye. If he doesn't come through then we can talk. And I do just want to give a quick note on the Bears wide receivers. You should not be panicking on these guys because they've been mostly awful all season long. If you haven't realized it yet, I don't know what to tell you. You can barely start any of these guys. And the same thing with the Jags running backs. Etienne's been a bust all year. Tank Bigsby had like 2 good games. Now he's dealing with an ankle. You don't need these guys in fantasy. All right, now how about the guys you probably should be panicked about? And we got to start with CeeDee Lamb here. Look, we knew without Dak Prescott it wasn't going to be good, but we didn't think it would be this not good. 6 catches for 21 yards. That isn't even a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. That's like a guy you got off the waiver wire and you needed as a desperation start. And CeeDee Lamb hasn't really lived up to expectations all season long anyways. I hate to say it because CeeDee Lamb has been so good in fantasy for so long, but it looks like we're going to get the first year of CeeDee Lamb being a bust in fantasy, especially now that it's going to be Cooper Rush, maybe Trey Lance rest of the season. I can't even say he's a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3 anymore. He's more like a flex and one with no ceiling. And I'm only feeling slightly better about Malik Neighbors right now since returning from his concussion. He has 8, 14, 14, and 10 PPR points, no touchdowns. Even the Carolina Panthers, for as bad as that defense is, they're not as bad as Daniel Jones is. Man, we talked about it during the offseason, how Daniel Jones was going to hold this guy back. And then early in the season, it was like, well, we were wrong. He's not going to hold him back. Okay, yeah, he's going to definitely hold him back here. Now, at least Malik Neighbors has been giving you a decent floor in PPR leagues. Obviously, in a non-PPR league, he's almost useless to you right now. But at least in PPR, he's giving you a floor. But still, we can't view Malik Neighbors as like a solid, strong start anymore at wide receiver. I got to put him in the flex tier. But at least, unlike CeeDee, he has a floor. And I don't even know where to put Breece Hall right now. I can't believe Breece Hall is even on this video. How is Breece Hall not smashing in fantasy this year? Everything is there for Breece Hall except, oh, hey, the Jets are absolutely atrocious once again. This wasn't supposed to be the case this year. We had Aaron Rodgers fighting for the playoffs. Instead, they're like last year's Jets. But the worst part is, instead of like last year's Jets where Breece Hall was at least getting like 10 dump-offs every game, he's not even getting that because Aaron Rodgers has to throw, 5-yard passes to Davante Adams even though they're down 3 scores. Take some chances here. Not to mention, we got to see Braylon Allen getting run. Why? I don't know what to say about Breece Hall anymore. I can't make excuses for this guy anymore. He's not a must start. If you don't want to start him anymore, if you got better options, I totally understand it. I'm not saying to outright bench Breece Hall, but Breece Hall is looking like a bust right now, even with the fantastic schedule coming up, because this Jets offense is a complete dumpster fire. And now I do still have hope for Deebo Samuel, but man, 12 PPR points in each of the first 2 games without Brandon Ayuk, 12 PPR points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers without Brandon Ayuk. Ricky Pearsall had the touchdown. Jawan Jennings had 11 targets in this game, outproduced you in this game. Deebo Samuel is one of those guys, he still has like that massive weekly ceiling, but man, I thought at this point he would be smashing like a no doubt set and forget wide receiver. Now I still feel better about him than I do say Malik Neighbors or CeeDee Lamb because at least he's on the 49ers and he's got Brock Purdy. But I think Deebo Samuel at this point, probably just more of a upside wide receiver too. Sure, he's going to have some big weeks because that's what Deebo does, but he might be pretty volatile the rest of the season. And speaking of volatile, nobody has been more volatile this year than Zay Flowers. In 5 of his games, he's had at least 91 receiving yards. In the other 5, he hasn't even reached 40 receiving yards. This guy is so frustrating for fantasy. You never know what to do with him. You don't want to bench him because when you do, yeah, he's going to go off on your bench. But you don't want to start him because when you do, he's going to do nothing in your starting lineup. He's one of these guys you're just going to have to leave him in your lineup unless you're absolutely stacked at wide receiver and just know sometimes it's going to be great, sometimes it's not. And I already mentioned Davante Adams. You know, he's coming off that nice game last week, was in a good matchup this week, and he was terrible once again. And he's mostly been terrible all season long here. And it's not like he's not getting targets. It's not like Aaron Rodgers isn't looking for him. Aaron Rodgers is looking for this guy too much. Throw the ball to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is better than Davante Adams. Give this guy a shot. Instead, he's got to throw little stupid passes to Davante Adams over and over that result in almost nothing. Look, Davante Adams, I'm sure he'll have a game here, a game there, and then we'll fall for the Davante Adams trap again. But I think mostly he's going to be underwhelming this year. And another wide receiver getting killed by bad quarterback play, Brian Thomas Jr. Just when it looked like he was going to be one of the best rookie wide receivers this year, had to play with Mac Jones, and it was absolutely worse than even I could have imagined in this game. And the worrisome thing for Brian Thomas Jr. is it sounds like Trevor Lawrence is actually weighing having season-ending surgery on his shoulder, which means we're going to have Mac Jones all season long. If that happens, it would be a very sad end to what was looking like a promising rookie season for Brian Thomas Jr. There's still a little bit of hope here. Let's hope Trevor Lawrence decides to play through it. It is on his non-throwing shoulder. Maybe after this game, they'll talk him out of surgery. Who knows? But if Trevor Lawrence is out for the season, Brian Thomas probably needs to be out of your fantasy lineups rest of the season as well. And after 4 straight monster games, DeAndre Swift has had 2 kind of downish games. I mean, this week was definitely a down game. Last week was okay because of the pass catching, but the worry here, kind of like Breece Hall, his offense is a complete dumpster fire right now. Look, maybe the Bears will do what the Saints did and just fire everybody and bring some new blood in here and some new life into this offense, but until then, we got to be nervous here. But look, he still did have 16 carries in this game. He's still the number 1 running back in this offense. He's probably just going to be a volatile RB2 rest of the way. And I don't know what Dalton Kincaid is going to be the rest of the way, but I know he's not going to be on any of my fantasy teams. That's it. I'm done with Dalton Kincaid. Even with Keon Coleman out, Amari Cooper out, did nothing. Now, I know he left this game in the second half with a knee injury, but that's the other reason why I'm done with Dalton Kincaid. Now he's hurt. He's done nothing all year, been one of the biggest busts in fantasy, and now he's got a knee injury. Nah, you can drop Dalton Kincaid if you need to. Move on from this guy and go stream tight end if you can. And speaking of a tight end that's probably just a streamer now, that's Jake Ferguson. He did lead the team in receiving 24 yards. Woohoo! 4 catches for 24 yards. I mean, come on, you can find that on the waiver wire every week. This Cowboys offense, whether it's Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, it doesn't matter. It's going to be an offense you're going to mostly want to avoid. Jake Ferguson, nothing more than a streaming tight end when he has a really good matchup and you're really desperate. And then there's Jordan Addison. Every week it feels like this guy should go off, and every week he doesn't. He's only top 10 PPR points twice all season long. Had another great matchup here this week, did almost nothing. I'm done with this guy too. Look, I get it if you don't want to drop Jordan Addison outright, but if there's anybody worth picking up on the waiver wire, you can drop Jordan Addison, but I really don't want to put this guy in my fantasy lineup anymore. Are we ever going to see a big game the rest of the season? And if so, are you going to be able to predict when it is? Because I'm not. I'm not just going to guess on when to start Jordan Addison here. He's had a bunch of great matchups. He's done nothing. He's out of my fantasy lineup the rest of the way.